grow all these crops in this 1 acre farm all together by using intercropping practices, because we fully understand food security is important, but nutrition and income security is also even more important. Use your 1 acre to be able to address food, nutrition, and income security all in one go. That is the way. Empowering this team, youth, women, and people with disability, making people with disability feel important because they can manage machines without any problem, agro-processing machines. That helps to give this specific segment, which is ignored, opportunities to participate in agriculture in a meaningful way, which brings economic returns.
So hello everyone, thank you so much once again for tuning in at the Voices podcast. My name is Arafat. Today we have a special guest, we have a special voice in the studio. Today we are joined by Dr. Mel Oluoch, who is the Director Strategic Partnerships at SAA. He will explain more about ACAT. Today he joins us on sidelines of the conference that is ongoing in Kigali, which is ACAT 2024. Today we discuss agriculture and we talk about economics in agriculture. We want to see if you now engaged in agriculture, how can you benefit from it? How can you really reap much from agriculture that you're doing today, away from the normal agriculture the traditional agriculture we're used to. So today he joins us to help us understand more on agriculture of today and the technologies that we have today in Africa that are really there to help us improve the way we farm, the way we grow crops, so that we can really manage to get enough produce from what we plant. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Arafat. Yes, my name is Mel Oluoch. I'm the Director for Strategic Partnerships with Sasakawa Africa Association. Sasakawa Africa Association is an international NGO with our headquarters based in Japan. We have a regional office in Ethiopia and other country offices in Africa. Our work primarily focuses on agriculture, technology, delivery in Africa to be able to bring in all the game-changing technologies that can help drive agriculture transformation and economic growth in Africa. That is what we do.
That's what you do. So today, I go to see you at the conference at the ACAT 2025. What is ACAT, by the way, for the people who don't know about that?
ACAT is an Africa Conference on Agriculture Technologies. It's a conference hosted by ATF, which is Africa Agriculture Technology Foundation, and it's given us a very strong platform to also showcase some of the technologies which we deliver to farmers, and also a very strong platform to allow us to be able to share insights, opinions, ideas, and facts which drives agriculture technology delivery. And like I said, that's what we do best. And we work very closely with the ATF in that specific area, in scaling up agriculture technologies for agriculture transformation in Africa.
So today, could you introduce us to what is the mission of SAA and what is the focus today that you're on, and also later talk about the impact that so far you've sparred in the communities that you help?
Yes, our mission is to catalyze agriculture technologies to African countries by introducing game-changing technologies which can be adopted by farmers and which can help create an impact at the grassroots level and at national level. We should not forget the fact that in Africa we have a problem. We import a lot of food, which is completely unnecessary. We are trying to drive up productivity growth at the farm level to be able to generate surplus, both for household use and for export, not to mention getting to value addition, to add value to these products, and to be able to sell them at a better price, which can bring farmers more economic gain. That's really, really crucial. And that's what Africa needs to do. Now, I'll just tell you, based on what we do in taking up technologies which have been developed by international and national agriculture research institutes, as well as universities in Africa and beyond, and taking those technologies, working together with farmers to validate them at the farm level, getting farmers to pick up the best technologies which addresses their farming typology, addresses their socioeconomic conditions, what can put more money in their pocket. We take these technologies, identify them, and take them to scale. The impact of our work is that we are being credited with agriculture transformation in quite a number of African countries. A good example is Ethiopia, where we have had tremendous economic gains based on what we do in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture in Ethiopia and other players. We've been able to catalyze the catalytic process where we pilot new technologies, we bring them in. If these technologies are good for the farmers, using a participatory way of validating those, the governments actually take up these technologies, bring in additional funding to scale them up nationally. And that's where the impact of our work has been. So we have tremendous impact in Ethiopia, where we are being credited with the agriculture transformation of the country. We had tremendous impact in Nigeria, in Mali, in Uganda. You go to Malawi today, every new agriculture technology that the farmers are using is called Sasakawa.
It's called
Sasakawa.
Really?
Credited
to you,
to our organization.
Your organization.
And that tells you the length and breadth of some of the transformative efforts that we make to be able to change the economic situations of quite a number of countries in Africa.
Let's take how many other countries do you work for, apart from the 4 you've just mentioned?
Currently, we work in 12 countries in Africa, apart from Ethiopia, Nigeria, Mali, and Uganda, where we have our country offices, which are the hubs for also helping to transfer technologies to other countries. We also work in Tanzania, in Malawi, in Mozambique, Benin, Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone, and Ghana. And we also work in Niger Republic. So in some of these countries, we focus a little bit more on capacity building to be able to get in all these game-changing technologies which we have piloted in other countries, use that experience, bring it to these other countries, and improve on the skills of Ministry of Agriculture Extension personnel and farmers and other critical players who work along the entire agriculture value chain as critical actors to be able to help transform the economy of some of these countries. So we focus a lot on capacity building in some of these countries.
So let's take an example. Take me as an example. Let's assume I'm a farmer and I'm doing agriculture, maybe on a small piece of land or maybe on a large piece of land. I want to do modern agriculture like you wish me to do. Now, take me from step 1 to the last step.
We work from plow to plate, as we say, along the entire agriculture value chain. And we have some game-changing extension models, about 6 of them, which we have used effectively to enhance delivery of these agriculture technologies. At each value chain node, the agriculture space, we have models which we use as approaches to be able to bring in new technologies which can address most of the challenges that farmers experience, which hinders them from moving from A to Z. And usually a lot of African farmers engage in farming for food security. We are trying to change their concept so that they engage in farming as a business enterprise.
I understand.
It's fine, to engage in farming for food security, but a lot of them do that because their productivity is very low.
Definitely.
They can only produce in the limited land that they have only an amount which is enough for household food security. Now, we are bringing in regenerative agriculture technologies. We are bringing in post-harvest management technologies, which can help improve agro-processing activities to reduce labor drudgery and, of course, costs during harvesting and beyond. Now, when you introduce this regenerative agriculture technology, these small plots that farmers own, especially in countries like Rwanda, even those small plots, they're able to generate harvests which can take care of their food security at home, as well as leave them with surplus, which they can market to bring in additional economic gain, for the household and for the family. So changing the way farmers work is called behavior change, from engaging in farming for food security to farming as a business enterprise. We call it growing to sell, not growing for sale. A lot of the mistakes that our farmers do in Africa, you grow a crop, then when you harvest, then you're going to look for a market. And sometimes there's no market for those crops.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely not. So we are changing the game, and we have changed the game. So we work with farmers in a participatory way that before they plant anything, they do market intelligence. So they go to the market, they find out what the market wants and what the market prefers, and which specific crops, which if they produce would bring them more income than any other. And that is what they go and grow, not just growing anything because I saw my neighbor growing this particular crop.
Wonderful. What a nice strategy.
Growing to sell, not growing for sale. You know exactly where you're going to market your crop before you even plant it.
You know even who wants it.
Exactly. Then we go the extra mile, but just not leaving it there. Once they've grown these crops, we link them to the markets. We work together with smallholder farmers, link them to not just local markets, the big players in the market like Nestle Foods and what have you, to be able to offtake all these products which they have grown, so that they have some level of stability with respect to markets, and they know exactly what price they're going to be paid. But we do a little bit something different. We bring these farmers together as associations, and then we have what we call one-stop center associations, where we change these farmer groups to be able to help address all the agriculture operations in a typical radius of within 30 to 50 kilometers, so that they offer what we call private service provision for all the farmers around them. So if it's plowing, Farm Association has a tractor. If it's weeding, they have all these youths who help support that process by weeding for these farmers for a fee. If it's harvesting, they have the machines for harvesting for a fee. If it's processing after harvest, they have the threshing and shellers. They bring it to your farm. They thresh and shell your produce for a fee. If it's storage, they take your produce, they go and store it for you. They reduce the moisture so that it's properly stored. And then you have the warranted system where they store your produce for you for a fee. And then they look for a market for the farmers as a team, so that once your produce is stored for them, they find the market, and then they sell it to the market. And since this is an aggregation of many farmers coming together, they can bargain for a better price than if you're only one farmer.
Sure.
That's what the market wants. We want aggregation. We want a specific tonnage every week, every month, not moving from one farm to the other, getting a bag of maize here, a bag of beans here. Nobody has that capacity. If you bring them together and all their produce aggregated and put in a warehouse in one go, they can come and people who buy them, traders, and even other big players can come and offtake all this produce in one go. And in one go, you've given them all the tonnage that they're looking for, and they'll pay premium price for it. That's how to lift up the economy. That's
really wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's a big problem of fertilizers all over the world. Everyone is saying, you know what, our soils are dying, our soils are dying, our soils are not really performing well, however much you put fertilizers or what. How are you working on that? How are you helping farmers to ensure that problem is resolved? Because we would love to see people going organic than inorganic.
Well, one of our strategic pillars right now is regenerative agriculture, where we are engaged very, very closely in introducing technologies which can help improve the soil health. And this is a combination of both.
So you're doing also soil health management?
We do a lot of soil health management. Combination of organic mixed with inorganic. I'll tell you the truth. If you go completely organic, it never works. The inputs for organic farming or for organic agriculture is very limited.
It's not enough.
Let me just take the example of just maybe cow dung manure or chicken manure. How many farmers have access to that? You just get enough quantity for your home garden. But if you have a big field, 2 hectares, which is the average in quite a number of countries, you don't have sufficient cow dung manure or chicken manure to be able to put in that farm. So we encourage a combination of what you can get combined with chemical fertilizers so that you reduce the amount of chemical fertilizers that you use and combine it with organic fertilizers, be it manure or we engage them in making compost. That way, the mix, and that's how you can help improve the soils in Africa, which have a big problem.
What are some of the most common crops that you have modified that you've really given that technology that currently are working well in the countries you're working from?
Maize, very important. Wheat, teff, a very unique crop, of course, in Ethiopia. You work in sorghum, millet, cassava, and basically cowpea, soybean, and other crops, basically. We are also big in rice. Yeah.
Am I right to say that they are modified crops?
No.
Seeds or?
These are not genetically modified crops. These are varieties which have been developed using traditional plant breeding methods. So far, we've avoided promoting genetically modified crops. But I'll be honest with you. It's all political. You have this anti-GMO groups, all over the world. It's not only in Africa, who have such a good public relations system and communication, who have made people feel like the GMO crops, is everything wrong with GMO crops? To be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with GMO crops. This is the future. And I just give you the example of South Africa, where anywhere from 50 to 70% of maize being produced in South Africa is GMO. Nobody's dying from it. Anywhere from 70% of the maize, and even other crops being produced in the United States is GMO. Who has died from it? Nobody.
But the impact comes in the future, of course. It doesn't come immediately.
A lot of biosafety research has been done. And you can even Google that. Try to find me anywhere where there's real scientific evidence that GMO crops is bad for human health. You will not find. A lot of research has been done in that area. Let's just be honest. And nothing critical has been found which is wrong with GMO crops. So our governments have to recognize this. They should probably work together with these anti-GMO teams to be able to educate them. It's all a matter of education to know that, hey, there's nothing wrong with GMO crops, and be able to transfer that information to farmers so that they can accept these crops. Increasingly, quite a number of African countries have opened up their doors to GMO crops. Apart from South Africa, now in Nigeria, you can grow GMO crops openly. It's allowed. Kenya.
Do GMO crops also require more fertilizers like the traditional crops?
Okay, this is a misinformation which goes on. Let me just give you an example of how GMO crops works.
Definitely.
Let's say you have a maize variety, and then you have another plant which is obviously resistant to drought. And this plant, sometimes, there are even other crops which can be easily consumed, and people consume them. Nobody dies from it. And you take the gene from that plant, which is responsible for that drought tolerance, and you transfer it to maize to make that new maize variety drought tolerant. That's what you call genetic modification, taking a gene from an unrelated species to another one.
From maize to?
From another crop altogether.
You can get it from beans to the maize?
Yes, to the maize,
For as long as the other is drought tolerant.
Yeah, and if you consume that beans, there's nothing wrong with it, that drought tolerant
Even by hearing it, there's nothing with it.
And you take the gene from that beans and you transfer it to maize to be able to transfer that tolerance for drought, and that new maize variety become drought resistant. What is wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with that, according to me.
If eating the beans did not kill you, if you take the gene from the drought-tolerant beans to the maize, how is that going to kill you?
And actually now I've understood it. It does not even take away the fact that you need to continue doing the practice like you're doing it. You have to put fertilizers, you need to do everything.
As simple as that, So they do not necessarily take more fertilizer than before. Everything else may stay the same. The yield of that GMO maize may be the same as the standard maize, okay? We accept that. And this, again, where the misinformation with anti-GMO teams keep on saying that there's no difference. Fine. But now take GMO maize, which is drought tolerant, and normal maize variety, which is not drought tolerant, and drought hits the country. Which crop will survive?
The GMO.
The GMO maize. So the yield may not be exactly higher than the normal maize, but it stands a better chance of survival when there's drought or when there's a specific pest outbreak, and this specific maize was developed to be resistant to that pest. This is misinformation going. The benefits outweighs all the other factors which people look at. So yes, in some cases they may be able to take more fertilizer than normal, but you also have GMO maize which takes less fertilizer. They're water use resistant, and they're able to convert the fertilizer, have a better nitrogen use efficiency than the other normal maize. Those GMO maize exists. So it's a matter of choosing a specific variety which has all the traits which you need, which can address the challenges of a particular location in every country. Yeah.
Actually, I read that your work also involves capacity building in universities. Can you share with us how are you doing that?
Yeah,
and
we
why
have
are you doing that?
A capacity building program in Africa where we work with 32 universities. Now, we support these universities to train primarily agriculture extension personnel from the Ministry of Agriculture so that we upgrade them, those who have diplomas, we upgrade them to bachelor's degree. And those who have bachelor's degree, we upgrade them to master's, and others we upgrade them to PhD level. Now, why do we do this? Having the right skills is extremely important for extension personnel. A lot of them are employed by government. They're working the rural countryside where they have a lot of challenges. They don't have access to the right information, the right technologies. By taking them back to school, we give them those skills which they need to be able to give to the farmers as the grassroots. Now we go to a little bit extra, Part of the reason why we've been credited with a lot of success in agriculture transformation, quite a number of countries in Africa, when these extension personnel graduates from these universities who we work with in partnership. These are the extension personnel who we work with on the ground very closely to be able to scale up the new agriculture technologies which we introduce.
Because he knows exactly what you do.
We've already given them the skills and they have the motivation to succeed. But we go a little bit step forward. We just don't work with them like that. We bring in additional funding and we create an enabling environment for them to do their work anyway, which they're employed to do. So by bringing in funds for agriculture development at grassroots level, we give this extension personnel an opportunity to showcase their skills, to be able to use what they've learned in these universities, again, to be able to scale up all these game-changing agriculture innovations which exist. And by creating an enabling environment for them to do their work, they're very motivated.
Are you trying to say, like, those who graduate from your module, you can as well support them to start off their own private companies, organizations, or let's say funds? So they can employ these skills they've acquired.
That's what we do. In Africa, we have one challenge. The number of agriculture extension personnel to the number of farmers, the ratio is very high. On average, you have one agriculture extension personnel to 5,000 farmers.
Oh my God.
Now, what is needed worldwide and what is recommended is one extension personnel to 500 farmers, which you can manage. In Africa, it's 5,000 farmers. So what do? We take some of these extension personnel and other
simply to
progressive...
someone who is not understanding us, an extension, you call him an extension farmer? An extension is this person you're talking about that equates to 5,000 is one who is skilled, who has all the skills required to help other farmers to do their work well.
Yes.
So, are you trying to say that we have them in limited numbers? What is stopping us from growing many, for having many, for training many?
Yeah, we have them in extremely limited numbers. Now, what is stopping us from having enough extension personnel in Africa is most of the African governments do not prioritize putting funding in agriculture. They employ very few extension personnel. Their priorities, I always say, is a little bit upside down, because if 70% of the people in the country are employed in agriculture, and you don't put priority in funding the Minister of Agriculture to have more extension personnel, then we have a problem.
A big one.
A very big one. So, because the governments also have limited funding, they can only employ enough, with the exception of Ethiopia, which has anywhere around 70,000 extension personnel. Second in the world after China.
70,000?
70,000.
All trained?
All trained. Some of them we've trained through a partnership program with Ethiopian government, the Minister of Agriculture. Some of them, the Minister of Agriculture has given them opportunities for further training. They support that. Ethiopia is very serious in funding agriculture. And that's why Ethiopia is one of the few countries in Africa which is self-sufficient, in agriculture. They've really reduced the importation of a lot of crops, including wheat. So Ethiopia is one of the countries which are extremely
self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient, in most of the crops, So that has really helped reduce the importation bill for a lot of products, especially agriculture products. Now, extension is everything. If you just take that example,
how long does the extension take, by the way, for personnel to be trained through that model?
Most of them already have diploma, and if we upgrade them, they go back to university for 2 years to earn their bachelor's degree, 2 to 3 years, and some of them move on to do their master's degree and even PhD degree, and we support some of these to be able to make a difference. Yeah. So that's how long it takes.
Oh, so how has been, what is the impact so far in the university? How many so far have you trained in these universities that have really come out and now already in operation?
About 10,000 personnel.
In how long?
Over several decades, about 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And we are still training more.
So that simply means that today, as we speak, you're happy of where you are, training and equipping farmers with skills and ensuring that you introduce to them these modified crops with good technologies that you just spoke about?
We are not happy where we are, and I'll tell you why. Our mission is to catalyze agriculture technology transfer. So these capacity building initiatives and other initiatives which we have, I would say these are largely pilots. We bring in the technologies and we work very closely with the Minister of Agriculture in all the countries where we are. And once we introduce these technologies, the Minister of Agriculture picks them up, especially the successful ones, and scales them at national level. So going back to the capacity building initiative, the reason why Ethiopia has employed such a large number of agriculture extension personnel is because of what Sasakawa, an organization, was able to do with the agriculture extension personnel. They saw the game-changing innovations which we were introducing in Ethiopia through this extension personnel. And they decided to just hire more to be able to meet the needs of the country. You have the same situation in Nigeria, which is now hiring many, many more extension personnel, going through that same initiative where we've helped to catalyze the process. Uganda is also adding more extension personnel and other countries, So they learn from each other. And this is what we do as a catalyst organization where we introduce innovations and have the governments pick it up, put in big funding to scale them up. This is how agriculture transformation works.
What are some of the soil health initiatives are you proud of today that you've really employed?
Okay. When it comes to improving soil health, there are quite a number of technologies. We have the conservation agriculture practices, diversified cropping systems such as intercropping, and being able to use other technologies like biochar and composting to be able to add into the soil to help improve the soil biodiversity and to help improve the nutrient profile, in the soil over the long term. And the basic idea is to regenerate the soil. There are so many technologies out there. We already have a book where we are promoting 50 game-changing regenerative agriculture technologies, which can be used to help improve soil health. And some of these technologies is need-based. In other words, in every country where we are, some of them work there, some of them don't. So we just use what applies to every country based on the resources that they have and based on the
soil
needs
texture.
that they have. Soil texture is a big factor in regenerative agriculture.
I mean, nutrition-sensitive agriculture and post-harvest management is very key. How are you handling that? Because you talked about how you ensure that the farmers also grow crops that really are nutritious and, you know, have that element of nutrition. How are you ensuring that? I think it's really something very big that you're doing that also includes so many things. How are you managing that, including that?
We are promoting biofortified crops and nutrient-dense crops. Instead of farmers just growing just any normal crops, you know. Let me just give you the example of maize, you know. So we have what we call high vitamin A maize. Vitamin A is a very important micronutrient.
You may thought all maize are the same. You know, maize is the same, you know.
They're not the same.
Really?
High vitamin A maize is actually orange in color. So this is very important for especially children under 5 as well as adults to be able to get rid of the big malnutrition burden, which is lack of micronutrients. And vitamin A is one of the micronutrients which is lacking the human body, together with zinc and iron. Focusing on those three, we promote crops which can address those three critical micronutrients.
Vitamin A, zinc, and iron.
Yeah, those are the ones needed by the human body more than any other micronutrient. So we deliberately take up crops which are high in vitamin A, high in zinc, and high in iron. And these are the ones which we introduce and scale up at the farmer's level. Unlike before, where we would scale up even other technologies which are not high in micronutrients, okay? Now, when it comes to post-harvest, one of the critical factors which affects most farmers is the labor requirement for harvesting. Farmers who have big farms have a challenge. The youths of today don't want to engage in agriculture. You'll not easily find youths to be able to harvest for you and do other critical agriculture operations.
So labor is a problem in agriculture sector.
Labor is a very big problem. And even when it's available, the costs keep on getting higher and higher, which is
hence impacting the output.
Completely impacting the income of farmers. We have addressed this by introducing post-harvest management technologies such as agro-processing techniques, where we introduce threshers, we introduce shellers. You take this literally to the farm and thresh the crop or shell the crop at the farmer's farm. Within a few hours, harvesting and threshing is already done. Finalized. We also introduce harvesters.
These are machines?
These are machines.
Are they not costly?
I wouldn't say they're costly. You know, chief is among them. They help reduce labor drudgery and costs that farmers experience. Now, we engage what we call a farmer's private service provision model, where we put some of these machines into the hands of youths and women to be able to operate this. And they engage in a private service provision model where if we give you a thresher, you will provide that service to all the farmers in the community, and you carry out the service for a fee. The farmers pay you. So you make an income out of that machine, okay? But you're also reducing the cost of operations for farmers at the same time. You see how it works?
Yeah, it works really well.
And youths do not like to engage in agriculture because they don't like the labor drudgery associated with agriculture.
I wanted to ask you that question before you go there. I wanted to ask you that lately, how have you been really including youth, women, people with disabilities so that you don't leave anyone behind. This inclusivity is really very key. How are you addressing that? That's where you're coming to youth, maybe.
Inclusivity addresses one critical component. These three groups, youth, women, and people with disabilities, are always forgotten in the typical agriculture space. Okay? Mm. The youth largely because they see their parents, how they're toiling daily, how they're wearing tattered clothes. They don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
So you have to give them agriculture innovations which they feel comfortable with, which
as if
they
they're
will
in
drive.
Office. To make them feel like they're in office.
Not necessarily in the office, but give a youth a machine and they're so interested.
Oh, I get it.
See the difference? Oh, this one, they'll...
Let him run a machine.
They'll be happy to run it. They feel important and they're running a machine, maintaining it, giving service to other farmers.
But of course, the farm of maybe 5 acres, you will need only 2 youths to be on a tractor, or 3.
Even 1. You don't need those many youths. And it's the same with women. They have so many other things which they do in the house. And in most countries in Africa, women is the backbone of the agriculture. You see them weeding, harvesting, processing, while also taking care of children and the household. It's backbreaking. So by introducing mechanization and putting the hands of women, it helps to uplift the income of the family, first of all, and it also helps to reduce the labor drudgery associated with farming, which mainly the women are involved in. That's a very big difference. Empowering this team, youth, women, and people with disability, making people with disability feel important because they can manage machines without any problem, agro-processing machines. That helps to give this specific segment, which is ignored, opportunities to participate in agriculture in a meaningful way, which brings economic returns.
So looking at the future, what are you planning for East Africa, apart from, you said you work with Uganda and Tanzania, especially Rwanda. Today we are speaking from Rwanda, we're in Kigali. I mean, we would love to have all those good things happening here. What plans do you have for us?
Well, we are increasingly improving and moving forward in networking and working together with many different partners in Africa so that we can take up the game-changing agriculture innovations which we have introduced in specific countries in Africa, which have helped transform the agriculture of those countries, and transfer them to other countries where we've not focused before. So we are coming to Rwanda very soon through partnerships to be able to address the agriculture situation here in Rwanda. It's critically important that we address all these challenges in many African countries. Quite a number of partners are already working with us. They would like us also to work in Rwanda, DRC, and other countries. And other donors are also coming to us to see whether we can basically do the same thing which we've done in other countries and bring them some of these countries like Rwanda, DRC, Burundi, Somalia, South Sudan. Yeah. These are countries, some of these countries have critical challenges. And we are ready to work with them to be able to bring all these agriculture innovations which are tested, proven, and have been shown to be able to transform countries, to also bring them to Rwanda and a few other countries in East Africa.
Climate change is very key when we talk about agriculture. How are you addressing that? How are you talking? I mean, in your corners, how do you talk about that?
Climate change is real. And in that space, we are harnessing agriculture technologies
that can fight
and management systems which can help bring resilience towards addressing climate change. This is bringing in different cropping systems to give farmers some kind of a risk management strategy. So if one crop fails, the other one will survive, be it a pest attack or be it drought. That's critical. But also helping to improve the soils to allow the crops to be able to respond better to some of these African soils which are highly degraded. So we are trying to change that, because when the soils are good, the crops can perform better when situations such as drought comes in. That's critical. So we are also introducing technologies which helps with carbon sequestration in the soil as a way of reducing the greenhouse gas effect. Technologies which can help to reduce methane emission, technologies which can help reduce nitrous oxide emission, and also take carbon dioxide from the air, put it back into the soil, sequester that, and turn it into important nutrients, and improving the soil structure in the soil, which can really help change the productivity on the ground. That is what we do to be able to address a climate change issue.
As we conclude our conversation, what is your goal for ACAT 2025? How do you want stakeholders to engage with you as you go on with this conference in Kigali?
The African Conference for Agriculture Technologies, ACAT, is a very strong platform to be able to showcase some of our successful innovations which we already carried out in Africa. We are one of the organizations who have very good, successful initiatives in scaling up agriculture technologies. This conference is a strong platform to share some of our innovations which we have found successful with the entire team, so that they can be able to learn from it. And that's why we call ourselves a catalyst organization. Where we've succeeded, we'd like to share that with other organizations to see whether they can adapt some of those practices, and not only adapt, but even make it better. So that together we can succeed beyond working alone. It's all partnership. Success is working together, not going it alone. That has never happened. And that's what we do best. And this ACAT conference is giving us a platform for that, and also giving other organizations a platform to showcase their technology delivery strategies, achievements, and their successes. Thank you.
We've had a very big conversation, but let's give tips, like 5 tips, to a farmer who has 1 acre of land. And this farmer wants to leap more from it, and perhaps has no access to your technology, but there are other technologies perhaps being deployed in this country. Give that Rwandan farmer an advice of how he can reap more from that 1 acre of land.
Introduce game-changing soil health or regenerative agriculture practices, what we call a cyclic bioeconomy model, where we mix crop livestock farming so that products from livestock such as manure is plowed back into that soil, that 1 acre soil, to be able to improve it, and then bring in agriculture technologies which are bringing in higher income. A good example is vegetable crops, the horticulture sector. Using manure and other soil health management technologies in this 1 acre plot, you go into vegetable farming. These are high value crops. You're able to get much better income from that 1 acre than growing maize. Okay? So you are addressing 3 key areas: income for the household, nutrition, for the household, and also, when it comes to vegetables, this is really a high value crop, So you can use it effectively by bringing in some other leguminous vegetable crops to also help improve the soil health effectively. That is a way. Instead of using a small piece of 1 acre
To grow,
to grow bananas,
or maize.
to grow maize, where the yields are extremely low and you're not able to get much from it. Additionally, grow all these crops in this 1 acre farm altogether by using intercropping practices, because we fully understand food security is important, but nutrition and income security is also even more important. Use your 1 acre to be able to address food, nutrition, and income security all in one go. That is a way.
Thank you so much. You've heard it. Food security is important, nutrition is important, and income is key. So what you can do right now, you've heard it. Just use your land to grow what can bring all that to you. We've had a very, very nice conversation. I've never had a conversation on agriculture like this one. And please, we beg you to go and watch and listen and learn. This is an expert you can never find everywhere. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.